Hey guys, so Google announced the new Nexus family yesterday via their blog. That includes the Nexus 6, the Nexus 9 and the Nexus Player. For this video I wanted to focus on the Nexus 6, giving you my initial thoughts and feelings, and I also want to hear your thoughts as well. I know there's quite a bit of controversy on the size and the price, so let me know in the comments. It's made by Motorola and pretty much looks like a blown up Moto X 2014. You even have the Motorola dimple on the back along with the Nexus branding. Google also confirmed the full name for Android 5.0, and yes, it is going to be Android 5.0. We've been calling it Android L, which we now know stands for Lollipop, so there you go. And yeah, the leaks were pretty much spot on. The Nexus 6 is the first Nexus phablet. It's a big device coming in with some really top-end specs, including the Snapdragon 805, which is clocked at 2.7 GHz, and of course the Adreno 420 GPU. The screen is a whopping 5.96 inches Quad HD AMOLED display, so essentially 6 inches. This thing is huge. It comes with Motorola's turbo charging, which is meant to be super fast. We'll have to test that out, and a 13 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization. And that's not mentioning the 3GB of RAM, stereo front-facing speakers, and some level of water resistance as specified by the Motorola website. So this really has a lot of top-end specs, and of course it's coming with Android Lollipop as well. I also forgot to mention in that list that it has a 3220 mAh battery, so it's a pretty beastly battery, but let's not forget it's a 6-inch display running Quad HD resolution, so we'll have to see just how well that battery does. And yeah, there's a lot to take in there. Without a doubt, this is a flagship with very high-end specs, very similar to that of the Note 4 actually. Google has also dropped the 16GB model, now opting for 32GB as the base and going up to 64GB, which I'm actually pretty happy about. Now yes, this is a big device whichever way you look at it. It comes in a little taller and wider than the iPhone 6 Plus. I have some comparison images a little later, so stay tuned. I know for a lot of people that size will be a deal breaker here, and I'm still undecided on that myself, but for media this thing is going to be awesome. Now as I mentioned before, it's using AMOLED technology for the screen, which normally gives very vivid and bright colours, but I've had a lot of questions about screen burn-in on this type of technology. Screen burn-in is a very real factor on AMOLED screens. If you head into a phone shop and check out the Galaxy S5 that's been running all day and all night on 100% brightness, it will have some screen burn-in. Now, for day-to-day usage, I think you'll be okay, but don't get me wrong, it's not a good idea to leave a static image on these displays for a long period of time, especially with 100% brightness. Now, I did some Googling to see if anyone had this issue on the Moto X, and some people did. Now, take note, I did say some people, not everyone. I've also got friends with the Galaxy S5, I've checked out their phones and they haven't shown any signs of burn-in. But it is something you'll probably want to keep an eye on, and with a lot of apps giving the ability to go full screen now, personally I think it's going to be a lot less of a problem with normal usage. Let's not forget there are advantages to AMOLED like vivid colours, very deep blacks, and the ability to use things like active display without massive battery drain. Overall, my opinion on the spec sheet is it's a beast. It looks like they haven't compromised on anything, although the camera still needs to be tested, and Motorola and Google don't have a great track record on cameras. Obviously I can't say much on the build quality right now, but from the images it looks to be a very solid device, and all in all I feel like it's a more premium Nexus than the previous Nexus devices have been. Now moving on to one of the most controversial points, the price. Motorola came out and said the 32GB Nexus 6 would be $649 off contract, and everyone just went nuts, and my Google Plus feed went crazy. And yeah, I get it, the Nexus 5 32GB was $399, so this is without a doubt quite a bit more expensive. But when comparing it to the other comparable flagships out there, it's actually quite a bit cheaper with, in some cases, arguably better specs. For my opinions on the price, well, it's in that phablet territory, and it looks to be the most premium Nexus device we've ever had, and it doesn't look like they've compromised on any specs. Big battery, big screen, Quad HD, 3GB of RAM, so I can see the justification, but I realise a lot of people will be upset because it's a shock to the system. But when you think about what it's offering, like I just said, the bigger screen, Quad HD, front-facing speakers, it's not that crazy a price, and let's not forget they're still selling the Nexus 5 at a cheap price, and it's still a great device. Checking out some of the size comparisons, you can see it dwarfs the Nexus 5. By the way, these images are from Phone Arena, who have an excellent tool to actually get a real representation of the size. Check out the link in the description if that's something that interests you. You'll also notice the Nexus 6 is quite a thick device, coming in at about 10.1mm, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to feel in the hand, being quite so big and quite so thick. We'll have to wait and see. We've also got a comparison here with the iPhone 6 Plus. Obviously these two devices are much more comparable, they're both in that phablet territory. Again, you can see the Nexus 6 looks quite a bit thicker than the iPhone 6 Plus. It is also a little bit taller and wider as well, but when you consider the Nexus 6 has a 6-inch display versus 5.5 and the footprint is very similar, that's actually very impressive from the Nexus 6. Overall, I prefer the look of the Nexus 6. It has much less bezel on the top and bottom, which makes the 6 Plus look quite boxy in comparison. Checking out this real comparison between the devices, you can see the Nexus 6 all the way on the right hand side there. The next device to it is the iPhone 6 Plus. Don't forget the iPhone 6 Plus here does have a bumper case, so it's making it look a little bit bigger. They look pretty comparable in terms of the size, but yeah, the Nexus 6 looks a little bit wider to me, so that again, I'll say it, that's going to be interesting to see how it feels when you're holding the device or when it's in your pocket. So there you go guys, that's a little look at the Nexus 6 and my initial thoughts. One thing I haven't seen mentioned anywhere is whether this device has HDMI mirroring via SlimPort or MHL. It would really suck for me personally if it didn't, as I use it all the time on my Nexus 5. But yeah, overall it looks to be a really nice device with awesome specs. The price isn't really my biggest hang up, although I know it might be for some people. For me personally, it's still the size, especially seeing as this is a thick phone and I don't really have the biggest hands in the world. But yeah, let me know your opinions on this one guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.